Joining us now is Washington correspondent for Spectrum News, Kevin Frey. Kevin, you know all things New York politics and then also for the Capitol, so you're pretty perfect for this morning. Let's just first start with what you're expecting the tale here to be. I know that everyone's on recess for this week, but conversations are still ongoing. You've got Chris Murphy there saying, I still support Schumer as leader, but people are upset.
And he threw in a but that he wants to see a change in tactics. And so there has to be kind of a come to Jesus moment among these lawmakers as to how exactly they plan on approaching Trump 2.0, because they still clearly have not landed on a plan here. And some of it is you see, shall we say, older Democrats like Senator Schumer playing by this more traditional playbook that dates back 20, 30 years when Washington was a little less dysfunctional. And then at the same time, you see Jeffries, who just came off of 2 weeks of basically being told, you're not being difficult enough. You're not throwing up too many alarm bells here. Basically pushing the envelope on this new approach, which is, let's see, the Republicans have blown things up in the past. It's time for Democrats to do the same.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics here. We're talking about a generational divide among Democrats, and I think that people, when I've said that in the past, think it's not just age. It's not. It's when you were elected to the body as well. How recently? Someone said to me on Friday, Joel Payne was here, and he said, this is not a time for flip phone tactics, which, of course, is Schumer's preferred method of communication. Can we drill down on the Schumer-Jeffries of it all? Because my understanding is that Jeffries was blindsided by the way that Schumer handled this. Both New Yorkers, both the leaders of the Democrats right now, and both clearly in friction with each other.
Yeah, and Congressman Clyburn said as much over the weekend. One of the dynamics here that's interesting is before you even get to the Schumer-Jeffries dynamic is that clearly Democrats were blindsided by the fact that Republicans were even able to get this through the House to begin with. And so I was talking to one Democrat late last week, right before the Senate voted, but all indications were it was going to pass, was we can no longer take for granted that the Republicans are going to basically be in dysfunction. There was this general accepted belief, it seems, that because of the past being precedent, there was the expectation that Republicans would fight amongst themselves and Democrats would have to come in on their white chariot and save the day in terms of getting this bill done. And obviously that did not happen. And so as late as Tuesday of last week, Senator Schumer was basically saying, well, we'll see if it gets over here to the Senate side. It didn't. He was caught flat-footed, and the rest is history. But as you mentioned, there's also this kind of, shall we say, infighting. Maybe that's a bit over the top between Jeffries and Schumer in terms of what their approach is to this moment. And as I mentioned, Jeffries was coming off of 2 weeks of getting blamed for not being aggressive enough. And you could tell in his press conference on Friday that he was tired of being blamed for not being aggressive enough. And then Senator Schumer ended up having to eat this after really upending the entire Democratic coalition.
And you say that when Jeffries was in that press conference, he was asked about Schumer, and his response was, next question. My understanding was it wasn't supposed to add fuel to the fire. The non-response was supposed to actually take the temperature down. But you read into something like a next question.
Well, especially since Jeffries is so keen to choose every single word that he says, far better than I do, precisely to mean something. That is his modus operandi. That is how he talks and how he presents himself. And so when you're basically glibly passing that off, that exposes a lot and suggests that there is some hurt feelings between these two gentlemen who are still feeling each other out, to be clear, because this is the first time they're both operating in the minority together. They've only been really operating in these positions for about a year, 2.5 years or so now. And Schumer, to be blunt, was kind of the second party to Nancy Pelosi for so many years and could kind of operate basically letting Nancy handle all the infighting while he kind of dealt with what came to him over on the Senate side.
Yeah, and Pelosi casting her own shade in a statement, not mentioning Schumer by name.
But dramatically so. And this hits at the age question, which is there are exceptions to that rule, and that she obviously can punch from the outside now, but also, I think, sees that this is a different moment in Washington than anything that has been over the past couple decades.
And very quickly, do you think we end up seeing a primary challenge from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or any other ambitious New Yorker?
The million-dollar question. I wouldn't rule out a primary challenge. I will say that you have to look to New York, and it is a complicated state to navigate. And part of it is that Schumer has really ingrained himself in all corners of the states. He prides himself every year on going to every county, even the rubiest red, lowest population density, and delivering some sort of infrastructure project or announcement or something. And one local leader, previous local leader, once told me that he basically operated like their local representative, even as he was serving as Senate Majority Leader. And so it's going to be difficult for someone to try to poke their neck out in that way.
Yeah, I think that that's certainly something. Schumer has the state of New York so well understood and so well covered that is going to make it difficult for a primary challenger. And yet the chatter persists.
Well, and the challenge of the replacement of leader is still out there, too, even if he does stay on as New York senator.
That's absolutely true, though I think probably on ice for at least the short term.
For the moment.
If it happens, though, Kevin Frey, we're coming right back to you. Thank you, my friend. And still ahead.